Early time. Coconutty. What do you think about the new posse? Bit of a change in scenery, feng shui. Saw a big brown snake yesterday. I drove in, pulled in before the grass was cut, jumped out, and like a metre in front of me I heard like rustling, just sort of stopped and looked down, and it sort of shot off in the opposite direction, and I saw that much of it and couldn't see the head and couldn't see the tail. Thick brown. Tripping. So nice to be like back eating fresh food. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's been nice being home. It's been some sort of fun little waves around. It's sort of had those like easterly winds, but sort of there's been some fun little banks and that easterly swell's sort of been sort of consistent everywhere. It was really cool to be able to travel with Laurie. You know, he doesn't get to travel as much these days, and I think he's pretty content with that and spending a lot of time with his family. And he's tiling and works really hard, and because he's always sort of chasing the biggest, wildest swells. But to have a trip and experience like this with him, surfing some more user-friendly waves, and to be able to feed off his froth a little was. Yeah, it was an absolute trip. Ryan and Laurie have become quite good mates too. They, both live in the same neck of the woods and get to surf a lot together and share, similar morals, and everything's, pretty simple at Ryan's place. His approach, and it's something that I really appreciate. He's, lives super simply. He's got his, little tiny home that he's basically built from scratch himself, and I think he has about 3 changes of clothes and 1 surfboard. I never have been really drawn to the cold, but Ryan sort of tends to gravitate to colder climates each year to sort of test suits and take a bit of time out. He sort of asked Laurie and I to join him for a few weeks, and so I guess that's how it sort of came around. It was cool to be a part of the trip with them. The landscapes and mountain ranges and passes and glaciers and wildlife, for me it felt like seeing, I guess, nature in a part of the world in its most purest, untainted form. It was pretty incredible. It was an experience that I won't ever forget. When you're warm in the cold and you've got good gear, you don't notice it as much, but you sort of, everything takes a lot more sort of time and planning and effort.
Did anyone see that one?
And often you'd have a half wet wetsuit, which is which is all good when you're in the car and the heater's on, but as soon as you sort of trek down to a wave or whatever, and you get a bit of the wind on there and it frosts things down, you get to start moving pretty quickly and get in the water, because I found once I was in the water I was a lot warmer than out, you know.
You got 3 seals waiting in the shorie for you.
Oh, what? Just staring at it.
Yeah. Laurie just hasn't stopped looking at the seal, that's all he's doing.
Oh, I'm not worried about the seals anymore.
I wouldn't imagine Laws to be scared of too much, considering the size of the waves that he surfs and all, but we had a couple of curious horny seals that put the heebie-jeebies up in. It was pretty comical. We sort of spent the first days down the south, and we got up to the north and the highlands and that area, and it was, you know, pretty much a whiteout. They'd had a huge dump of snow just before we'd got there, and you know, the beaches and cliffs and mountains and everything were just totally thick and, you know, beautiful powdery snow. For me, that was the first time I've ever seen snow that close to the ocean, and I know Laurie was over the moon. He got to tick that off his bucket list. He was frothing around like a kid. It was unreal. All the elements make for, I guess, a deeper adventure and an experience, you know. And finding places is definitely more challenging, and the waves that you get aren't necessarily better, but when you do find them, the reward's a lot sweeter. spend so much time sort of driving around, looking out at the ocean and checking the surf and getting ready, and you're paddling out and duck diving, and you sort of get out there and you're sitting on your board and you look back at the land and the coastline. You're sort of surrounded by this incredible landscape and, you know, mountains and rocks and snow and seals, and there's sort of a whole abundance of things going on, and all these different elements come together. It makes it pretty surreal. That was the first time Loz and I had travelled together, and you know, he's an absolute frother and a ball of energy in the surf. Over there, he was like a kid at a candy store. Anything, it would be howling onshore and 1 foot, and he'd be the first one out there, and then the last one in. He's an absolute frother, and yeah, super fun to travel with.
Colin, this is a sick little point. It's kind of, yeah. I think I'm going to go for a paddle. How long? Do you care? What's wrong with that? Nothing.
You're the one behind it.
I'm going for a paddle.
Go.
Is that alright? Look at that little inside. Come for a paddle.
Go.
Am I tripping?
I feel like, you know, not even 20 years ago, there just wasn't the equipment to be able to surf in conditions like this. It really opens the door and gives you the opportunity to sort of explore sort of outside the box. You know, that in itself is pretty special, I think. You know, on that day it was these like heaving, chunky sort of shore break tubes in, you know, what, 4-degree water. When we first checked it, it was absolutely cooking. It looked similar to some sort of French or Mexican beach break, and by the time we got out there, the tide was running out and everything changed pretty quick, and it turned into this sort of closey beach break and rips and all sorts of things going on and icebergs floating around. It was pretty treacherous. Coastlines and landscapes and mountain ranges and passes, you know, it was all so wild and mesmerising, you know, even, you know, the days that we didn't find waves, and we were just as content sort of driving around the countryside, taking in all the sights and looking in and around all the nooks and crannies. It was yeah, a pretty incredible experience. We had some, you know, a whole lot of wild weather over there, but there was one day in particular where winds were between, I think, like 70 to 100 k's an hour, and we were getting thrown all over the road in the car, and we were going past, you know, upside down waterfalls, and finally sort of got to the waves, and it was, you know, howling offshore, and the wind chill was, you know, around -10, and I think we stayed out there for about, you know, 3 or 4 hours. It was pretty challenging conditions. There was a lot of paddling and heaps of wipeouts, and I definitely don't think I've ever surfed in conditions that windy. I mean, you know, the waves were really chunky too, so there was a whole lot of elements going on. You know, the water's cold and it's misty, and you're paddling into waves and you can barely even see further than 2 feet in front of you. And the whole, you know, surfing a wave that you'd never surfed before out there, just Laurie and I, and you know, you're sort of getting blown out to sea and don't really know where you're sitting in the lineup. Yeah, it was all a pretty wild feeling. It's so nice to be in the water, you know, sharing waves with just a couple of friends in a place that you've never been, surfing a wave that you've never surfed. It's one of those sweet feelings that you almost don't get to experience too much anymore. It's a pretty special feeling.
What are you doing there?
Fresh snow.
Oh yeah.
Looking back on the trip, to spend some time in such a, you know, raw and beautiful environment, you know, to have that experience, something I'm definitely really grateful for. It'll sit with me for a long time, and you know, the people there, they've got to have to be some of the hardiest people I've ever met, and you know, sort of their way of life is, you know, it's pretty inspiring, but it's also so sweet to come back to warm weather and warm water, and yeah, I have to take my hat off to them.
Have you seen the massive buildings reach towards the sun? Seen the fields of barrenness from the work that man has done? What about the dams and weirs that feed the countryside? I've seen the brownness of the grass when the dams and weirs run. Just give me sunshine through the autumn.